Taylor Cat, welcome to my channel. Today we are playing Asphyxia. Last time we kind of got to find out our character is a bit of a klutz. Her teacher doesn't like her. She doesn't like her teacher. She has a friend who seems to stick with her through, I guess, her being her. And we cut her hair for some reason, and now this chick that we have some sort of problem with is crying, and we're fighting with ourselves if we should actually help her, because I guess she did something terrible to us that we don't know about yet. Alright, let's continue. Samantha dithered uncomfortably, unsure. Even though De Quincy was in tears, it had nothing to do with her. She didn't owe De Quincy anything, even if she had borrowed a significant amount of money from her during the last school term. De Quincy was so lost in her mourning, she had not even noticed Samantha was there. Samantha could easily have slipped past her back into her own seat without her ever knowing Samantha had seen her. It was perfect. It was perfect. So why weren't her feet moving? Would Samantha's conscience let her ignore a girl who had once been her friend? Approach De Quincy. Just ignore her. You know, it could be something really awful. Let's approach her. De Quincy? Samantha approached the other girl with the same hesitancy one would use if they were dealing with a rabid dog. Just what was she expecting anyway? Did she think De Quincy was going to bite her? For all her apprehension, Samantha knew she was being ridiculous. De Quincy had a penchant for being shameless, but not even she would have acted so very outrageously. Not while sober, at least. Drunk, on the other hand. Oh, Sam! De Quincy raised her head, meeting Samantha's questioning gaze. Her eyes were red and puffy, swollen from tears. Her hair was rumpled, and altogether she looked so very pitiful, Samantha found she couldn't remain anxious for too long. What did she have to be afraid of, really? De Quincy looked even more miserable than Samantha had felt these last 3 months, which was quite an achievement. Are you finally speaking to me again? After all this time? I suppose I am. I couldn't ignore you. Not when you look so awful. That would be cruel, I think. Even though Samantha had a few moments been pondering whether she should do exactly that. She didn't tell Quincy that, though. What the other girl didn't know wouldn't hurt her. Oh, Sam! De Quincy sniffled. And I thought you would never speak to me again. You're really a sweetheart after all. Perhaps I've never been very good at keeping grudges. Seems pointless. You only ever make people unhappy. That's true enough. I've been feeling quite bad over what I did. I know I shouldn't have. I knew at the time too, but that was enough to stop me. What did she do? I've always been impulsive. Not that that's much an excuse. De Quincy smiled shakily through her tears, then wiped her eyes on the back of her arm. So, I don't mean to pry, and you're under no obligation to confide in me, not if you don't want to, but why were you crying? Did something happen? Oh, you could say that. It was pretty rotten. What was? It's hard to explain. I don't know if you'd understand. Maybe nobody would. Maybe not. We all grieve in different ways, but... Samantha's eyes softened. If there's anything I can do to help, don't hesitate to tell me. I want to at least try to be here for you. Thanks, well... De Quincy gave Samantha a watery smile, her lower lip trembling. I guess there's no easy way to deal with something like this. The death of a loved one is always painful. I know it's silly, but it really does hurt. Oh... Samantha's eyes widened, so it was as she had thought. De Quincy really had lost a loved one, and recently, too, by the sound of it. Samantha was no stranger to bereavement. Her own father had died when she was only 7 years old. and it was a memory that had stayed with her, following her from place to place more persistently than her own shadow. She could remember sitting in the parish church of Aldery St. Mary, with its vaulted ceiling and stone arches, listening to the vicar as he conducted his service. Samantha had grown restless and started to gnaw at her fingernails during the vicar's speech, nibbling them down into stumps. Her mother had noticed and was less than impressed. Through her tears, her mother had taken a hold of Samantha's hand, crushing her daughter's fingers between her own, and had hissed at her to just sit still and listen, for goodness sake. What a terrible thing to do to a child that young, dealing with the loss. That remark had stung. It stung even now. Over a decade later, Samantha hadn't been fidgeting out of carelessness. She had loved her father dearly, and though she had grown accustomed to his absence, she still missed him. She had been fidgeting because she had been anxious, and she had been sad, and she had been trying to distract herself from her own melancholy thoughts, which had grown more and more aggressive with every passing second. Samantha's mother hadn't known that, though. She never seemed to be able to divine how her daughter felt, even when Samantha tried to put her feelings into words. They were a mother and daughter in name only. In many respects, they may as well have been strangers. Samantha didn't want to be like her mother, curt and inconsiderate. Instead, she wanted to be kind and caring. Maybe that was why she had, despite her own worries, chosen to pause and speak to De Quincy. Now that she had committed herself, she could not just turn and leave. I'm really sorry for your loss, Tabitha. When did you hear the news? Is she going to yell and snap for calling her Tabitha? No? Okay, nice. Oh, it was fairly recent. Only a few minutes ago, actually. A few minutes? Samantha frowned. What did De Quincy mean by that? Had one of her family members sent her a text? That must have been it. Though that sounded a harsh and personal way to share a message about a recent death. That's right. It's gonna be something really dumb, like a website shutting down or something like that. De Quincy nodded. It was so sudden too. I mean, I already got a few bad endings, but I really thought I could. Oh my goodness, she's talking about a game. Oh no. She's crying. I get everybody's, moved by games in different ways, but this is a bit dramatic, Tabitha, okay? Just a tad. A lot. You do you, though, I guess. I already got a few bad innings, but I really thought I could prevent it this time. I was so convinced. I thought I made all the correct choices, but it all fell through in the end. Hannah still died. My cute little Hannah. Why must the world be so cruel? Samantha frowned. Now, for the first time, she was beginning to wonder whether she had been laboring under a misapprehension. What bad endings are you talking about exactly? I'm afraid I don't quite follow. I thought you wouldn't. That's what I said. People don't play these kinds of games very much, so they're pretty obscure. There's some really, really good ones, though. What? Do you mean to say you were crying over a game? I mean, I guess people cry over movies too, so game, movie, I get it. But we thought you had a dead family member. So you could see why we're a bit irritated with you at this moment, right, Tabitha? That's right! Look! De Quincy proffered the plastic object she was holding in her hand to Samantha. Samantha took it. She didn't know what it was at first, being more focused on De Quincy's tear-stained face than what she had been holding. But now, all at once, she suddenly understood. It was a handheld game console. On the screen was displayed an image of a cute girl. Her eyes were closed, and she was laying on the hospital bed, her black hair fanning across her pillow. There was text at the bottom of the screen, perhaps explained what was happening in the scene. Samantha wasn't sure. She didn't play many games other than fantasy RPGs, and that was only occasionally, because she liked the music and the fantastical environments. Even so, Lillian was far better at those than she was, particularly during boss battles. Samantha's fingers started to shake. So this whole time, she had been comforting DeQuincy, not over a death of a friend or family member, but over the death of a girl called Hannah. A girl who did not exist, never had done, never would. Well, now she felt like an idiot, and to add further insult to injury, DeQuincy's expression was utterly earnest. It was clear she hadn't intended to trick Samantha. She had jumped to wild conclusions on her own, and in so doing, had made a fool out of herself. Why did that always happen to her? Because most people wouldn't think this person is crying because of a video game. That's why. Hey! Do you want to borrow this game from me after I'm done? It's really emotional. I cried buckets. Even though this is my third playthrough, Hannah's death scene gets me every single time. But she isn't real. Hannah might not be real, if you want to go by dictionary definitions, but she exists inside my heart. In the universe of that game, I am Takumi, and I really am her big brother. I must protect Hannah. I guess it's Hana, isn't it? I must protect Hana, no matter what. I'd even give my life for her if necessary. That's how much I adore her. You know what? Samantha smiled, though it was strained, and handed the console back to DeQuincy. Her movements were stiff, as though her bones had turned into stone. I think I'll pass. I'm going to go back to my seat now. Good luck with the rest of your game, though. What? Hey, Sam, wait up! DeQuincy called after Samantha's retreating back, but it was already too late. The tentative peace which had blossomed between the two girls had already met its demise at the hands of a sudden winter snowstorm. Hey, Sam! Sam? Huh? Samantha's brow furrowed. She could see Roberta opening and closing her mouth like a fish, but she couldn't hear a word she was saying. Samantha's ears were filled with music, and the rest of the world was muffled. Jeez! Roberta sighed, and with one swift motion, she reached forward and plucked one of the buds out of Samantha's ear. Samantha's eyes fluttered, and perturbed, she looked at Roberta askance. Hello, Bobby. What is it? You should know. If I knew, I wouldn't be asking. Roberta sighed. Alright, Miss Clever Clogs. Turn the volume down already. I don't want to spend the whole journey with your weird Germanic chanting playing in the background. Oh, I'm sorry. Samantha fished her music player out of her pocket and clicked a few buttons. She always listened to music at full volume. It was a bad habit, like biting her fingernails and cracking her wrists, one that she had never been able to shake, no matter how often Roberta scolded her. Some people listened to music to help them concentrate on boring tasks, but Samantha did the opposite. She listened to music loud and oppressive to stop concentrating, so she could disengage from all her worries. And Samantha had a lot of worries. Honestly, Roberta touted, you'll go deaf one of these days, and you'll only have yourself to blame. Yes, I'm sure you're right. You often are. I know I'm often right. You don't need to tell me that. Roberta raised an eyebrow. Can you even understand half the music you listen to? Hey, as a person who listens to lots of foreign music, that's what subtitles are for. It's like movies and shows. It's fine. And also, music is universal, blah blah blah. Samantha smiled sheepishly, and while pondering her reply, pressed her index fingers together. I know a few words here and there. My German isn't that bad. It wasn't, however, at the level where she would have been able to go to Germany and have a conversation about the trains or the weather. A few phrases Samantha had picked up after listening to all that German folk metal weren't particularly useful. Mostly they were overwrought expressions of deep Germanic angst. But that suited Samantha perfectly. I can't claim to understand your taste. Why is it always German? That's the only music you ever listen to. 'Cause she wants to. What's wrong with that? Why do you always have some sort of weird fruit thing in your hair that I can't decide if it's a heart, a apple, or a cherry? I'm not entirely sure. I just think it sounds passionate. You would think that, not being able to understand what they're saying. I suppose so. Maybe I'm just imposing my own meaning onto the lyrics. But is that really such a bad thing? People do that all the time. They do. She's not lying. All the time. To converse, people have to derive their own interpretation from the words of others. You can't really know what someone else is thinking. Not if you don't live inside their head. That's pretty deep for 9:30 in the morning, isn't it? I apologize. Maybe I woke myself up a touch too efficiently. Samantha held up half-empty can of tiger print energy drink, which had been resting between her thighs for the last 10 minutes or so. Also, tiger print energy drink sounds like it tastes awful. Roberta eyed the now lukewarm can with an untrusting eye. How many of those have you had exactly? In the last half hour? I think this might be my third? Your third? Or my fourth? I don't really know. I've lost count. Why? Is there anything wrong with that? Yes, that is a lot of caffeine and whatever is in that energy drink. 4 is a lot. In 30 minutes. Roberta stared, aghast. Not aghast. Perhaps she was beginning to think she should have followed her friend when they had stopped at that service station a while back. Samantha obviously couldn't be trusted to make decisions on her own. Stuff like that isn't good for you, you know, especially not in such large doses. You'll make yourself sick and you'll rot your teeth into the bargain. Maybe, but it did help me wake up, didn't it? And you wonder why your stomach always hurts. You're poisoning your body. Listen, I'm sure her stomach is awesomely used to it at this point. Her stomach probably hurts because she doesn't eat food. Or maybe she gets snagged all the time. Or maybe it's because she is drinking 4 energy drinks in 30 minutes. But so judgy. That's what Lillian says too. Or said, rather, because Lillian no longer spoke to her. Samantha winced as though stung. There are many things she disliked thinking about, but she particularly disliked thinking about that. For some reason, Roberta looked disgruntled. More so even than she had when she had been berating Samantha earlier for her poor life choices. What does Lillian have to do with anything? I just thought, since she always told me off, maybe I should quit. Oh, I see how it is. So you'll listen to what Lillian says, but you won't listen to me? Is that what you're trying to get at? No, Samantha's grip around the can of drink tightened. It crumpled underneath her fingers, leaving indents on either side. You do know Lillian has no interest in speaking to you again, don't you? It doesn't matter what you say now or what you do. She won't care either way. I know, but still, feelings are feelings. You can't control them. Samantha frowned. She means a lot to me. And I don't? Jealous. I never said that. You're jumping to conclusions. Samantha frowned. How could she explain her feelings when not even she fully understood them? What should she do? Apologize to Roberta, say nothing. I don't know. What would be a good option here? I feel like saying nothing will piss off our friend, but I also feel like apologizing will piss off our friend because we apologize a lot. Let's apologize. Anyways, maybe our friend can feel our sincerity. I'm sorry, Roberta. I do value you, really. You have a funny way of showing it. It's difficult for me to believe such assertions when you so constantly do and say things that make me believe quite the contrary. I know that. I know I'm not always the best friend I could be. I'm fickle and flighty, and I either demand too much of your attention or want none of it at all. I'm aware more than anybody. I know how exhausting I can be, but I don't want to upset you. I don't want to upset anybody. I'm very sorry if I said or did anything to make you unhappy. You know, Samantha sighed. Lillian is my friend. Or was, rather. This use of the past tense hurt more keenly than a skewer pierced through her breast would have. Samantha was still not used to even now to referring to her relationship with Lillian as something which had already happened, something which was over and done with. She did not want to become used to it either. She missed Lillian intensely. But you are my friend too. Please forgive me. I know you have put up with a lot, especially from me, and I know I can be annoying. You really can. You're the most annoying person there is. Do you think? I quite agree. It's the only area I excel in, really. Roberta tried to remain aloof, but she could not. Samantha's wry comment slipped through the crack of her armor, and, unbidden, raised a small smile to her lips. Well, they do say if you have it, you should flaunt it. In this case, however, I wouldn't recommend it. Samantha giggled bashfully. I'll do my best. But I have precious little else to flaunt. In the end, maybe being annoying really was the only talent she had. What a depressing thought. Oh, I'm free! I'm free! I'm finally free! Also, you have like way too many ribbons on you. De Quincey exclaimed thus, arms... I can't really comment on the, like, every time there's a background, there's a person in front of it. It looks like a painting. I like it as a painting. It's pretty, you know, nice. It does its job as a scenery, but I think it's too smudgy for my taste. But I really like the character art and like this art here. De Quincey exclaimed thus, arms outstretched, a good deal more chipper, or so Samantha observed, than she had been while sitting upon the couch earlier. It seemed she had already recovered from her poor Hannah's untimely death. I feel that. When I was playing another game, the little sister kept dying, and it was like, but I ended up more frustrated than sad, but that's just me. There are more people who feel like really attached to characters, like they'll watch a show and they'll cry, or read a book and they'll cry, but you know, they're just people like that. You just got to accept them for them. Samantha sighed. Why had she ever been stupid enough to assume there was something amiss with De Quincey? Because I'm controlling you. That's why. Lillian was right. She really did have a morbid imagination. She always imagined the worst. All right, De Quincey. Don't go running off on your own. I am a teacher, not a shepherd, and I have no desire to hunt down every errant student who might decide to stray from my flock. Yes, miss. The same goes for the rest of you, too. Miss Pope turned to face the congregation of St. Mary's students, her hands on her hips. I won't stress myself unduly should any of you get lost. You're not in primary school anymore. You should be old enough now to take some responsibility for your actions. Yes, miss. A dull chorus of voices answered back, fronted by De Quincy. Why did she sound so cheerful? Was it because she had an excuse to hang around Lillian for 2 whole days and maybe even gasp, shock, scandal, see her in pajamas? What? Gasp, shock, scandal. So dramatic. De Quincy had always loved Lillian. She was borderline obsessed, and the border was growing thinner and thinner with every passing day. Although Samantha knew Lillian did not particularly care for De Quincy, Lillian did not particularly care for anybody save her younger brother, it still stung. She couldn't help but feel jealous. Why was De Quincy allowed to link arms with Lillian anyway? Ooh. I feel love triangle, and look at those heart eyes. We'll see what happens in the next episode. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. I am Tata Cat. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon.